We are back, and we're happy that you're joining us today. Moments away, we're going to discuss mistakes you may be making while you're canning, but first, a word from our bee friends at Honeybee Healthy.
Since 2000, Honeybee Healthy Inc. has helped beekeepers maintain healthy and thriving hives. Attracting pollinators to your garden this year is as simple as hanging a hummingbird feeder with a mixture of sugar water and Honeybee Healthy Original. Don't be alarmed to see birds, bees, and butterflies dining together at the feeder. Pollinators coexist peacefully. Honeybee Healthy Inc. is offering a 10% discount on an 8-ounce bottle of Honeybee Healthy Original to the show's listeners. Enter code Bee Garden, that's BEE Garden at checkout. For more information, mixing instructions, and to purchase products, visit honeybeehealthy.com.
Canning mistakes. Holly is a multi-award-winning Wisconsin state canner. The show originates out of southeast Wisconsin for those who may be new and are unaware of the origins of the program. And you can find all of our past programs and coupon codes that you hear during the show at our parent website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, underneath the Season 8 tab for this year and the Money tab for your coupon codes. So, mistakes that canners make and may or may not know that they are making these mistakes.
Yes, correct. So I want to go with like kind of an old one. I don't guess you call old, is flipping the jars when you get them out of the canner. People used to do this because of the wax on the top, and then
the paraffin wax.
Yeah. And then I think people just did this out of habit for some reason.
Well, I don't understand that it wouldn't have been the paraffin wax whenever they had the old zinc lids. Is that when this?
I think so.
Would have been, and because again, we talked about in the first segment, and if you're listening to a segment, you got to go back to that. Where does it make sense? Step back 3 steps and go common sense hat. I'm trying to get the jar to seal and to do the ping, and I need that air gap there in order to vacuum seal. But I'm going to flip it upside down and put all the pressure on that lid before it will seal.
I don't get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we see this. This is still a regular thing in canning groups on social media that you will see once a week at least. Somebody shows a picture of them finishing up and their jars are upside down. And then watch out for the comments, because almost everybody says, don't do that, don't do that. And then there'll be 2 or 3 that will fight you to the death about why that's right to do it.
Right, exactly.
It is not safe. Don't do it. It is not recommended. The National Center for Home Food Preservation does not recommend that. They say it's wrong. So does ball canning as well.
Right. So another one is not using correct time for altitude. I know that some people will move around the country periodically for whatever reason, and then they don't think about their altitude. I mean, are most of us at sea level? Yes, but there's also a lot of us.
KHNC 1360, the Roar of the Rockies out there. They're up there.
Yeah, who are way above sea level. So it is something that you want to keep in mind. Read your recipe.
It's good to know that anyway, whether you're canning or not. Where are you at above sea level?
Well, I'm sure there's other recipes that will.
When you're baking, it's important for the leavening. Yeah.
So keeping rings on to store. So the ring is the ring part.
The screw-on part
of your canning jar. And people will keep the rings on because it looks nice, or they just think it's proper or whatever. And actually, for a while, I thought that you were supposed to keep the rings on too. But then somebody explained it to me like this. I think it was my canning class instructor.
The master canner of Milwaukee County, Christina Ward.
Yeah. And basically, so if we're putting pressurized food, basically, into a jar, and so if something happens with that food, it spoils and it opens the lid up a little bit, then the lid will stay unsealed if you don't have the ring on. If you have the ring on, it could reseal, and you're not going to know that. So
create that vacuum again, because it poof and then
suck
it
back could happen like some sort of chemical reaction.
And if it's already going releasing, something ain't right in that jar. Right. Something has gone funky.
Right, because we're putting perishable food making perishable food shelf stable. So you want to keep it as safe as possible, and keeping those rings on does not keep it safe, and taking them off is what keeps it safe.
That's what they used to do in the 1900s.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're in the 2000s now. And here's the thing. People still do get sick from improper canning even today.
Right, and that's another thing I'm going to talk about is cutting corners in recipes, and you're like, that seems like an obvious one, but you'd be surprised how many people are like, I'm just gonna wing this, or I'm going to
take my time,
or,
and
or I'm going to use this maybe okay proper ingredient. Like, for example, there's a lot of bottled lemon juice used in canning versus freshly squeezed lemon juice, and the bottled lemon juice does ensure that there's a consistent acidity throughout. And so if you use freshly squeezed lemon juice, you don't know if it's consistently the same acidity. So there's that kind of stuff. Or being like, I only have this cooking vinegar and I don't have white vinegar. It's probably the same. And most cooking vinegar, I think, is like
cherry vinegar.
Yeah,
there's multiple different vinegar.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about vinegar. Used to be the standard. Used to be 7%. Then it backed down to 5%, which is kind of the standard for canning safeness. Now we're seeing
more like 4,
and even 3 in some of these off-brand. So you got to look at it. We've got to look at what we're putting in, because that acidity determines the safeness or the level of pH in the jar in order to preserve that food correctly. If you got too little, you're dealing with a environment that is probable to bacteria forming and growing in your sealed jar. And that could be a lead to the popping off and exploding jars. And if you have that lid on tight, it's not going to be able to release. Either 1, it's going to reseal, or 2, it's going to explode like a bomb, and you're going to have pasta sauce everywhere. So that's another reason to take that lid off, or that band off, that ring, so when it explodes, it just pops instead of ba-boom, because if it's on tight enough, you could have quite a mess. Air pressure or inside of a jar. We're putting it in a boiled water bath or in a pressure canner. And you think about when you pop that can and you hear that, there's a lot of stuff going on there that we're not aware of.
It's true. There's a lot of science going on there. Using old recipes or concepts. So
I saw it online. It must be true.
Things like, this is maple bacon jam. You can't technically, jam is high fat. You're not supposed to can high fat meats like what did I just
sausages.
Say? I said I mean bacon is high fat.
Bacon's high fat, yeah.
Yeah.
Greasy stuff.
Yeah. So even though it's going in jam, it still could cause a problem. If you're like, oh, it's just a couple, teaspoons or something, it still could cause a problem. So you can make that jam, and you can do a refrigerator jam or like a freezer jam, but it's not safe to do a canned maple bacon jam. Say that 5 times fast.
But well, I can buy it at the store. Why can't I make it at home?
Because you're not an industrial kitchen. And that's why they have the heat,
they can pressurize this stuff at a magnitude in which you cannot achieve in your home kitchen.
Right.
I don't care how hot the fire is, how hot the stove is, you're not going to get there. And don't pretend like you are, because you're not.
No. So that's one huge problem is thinking, okay, I saw this on this, I really trust this person on this website, on their blog. They always give great information, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. You can trust them. That's perfect. But it is.
Is there a source that backs up what they're saying?
Source? And, what is their, I don't know, what are their credentials? Like, we've even had people ask you and I what our, credentials are. So just because they seem like a trusted person, or they're on, social media, whatever, doesn't mean that it's okay.
And point being, on our YouTube channel, which is titled The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener, we have 46 or 47 Canning What You Grow videos on there, where you take in the kitchen and show how to process beans or tomato sauce or Jerusalem artichoke relish or variety of things. But in the description, you have a link from either Ball Canning or the National Home for Food Preservation. You have a link that directs you to the actual recipe in which you are coming from and teaching how to can that particular item. You're just not making it up, or you heard somebody, or Better Homes and Garden is another link in which is trusted. You can, as a viewer, you can go and click on that and go, okay, she's saying what's the recipe. Okay, that makes sense, because the source says what she's doing. or he's doing, or whomever you're watching.
Right. And then just like things like, your great grandmother's tomato recipe, or, tomato sauce recipe, or for example, green beans. Joey grew up, his mom would can green beans via the water bath canner. And we've learned that green beans are not as acidic. And I'm not talking about like dilly beans. I'm talking about just regular beans.
Canned beans.
Yeah. They're not as acidic as they used to be. And so now you have to pressure can them. Side note, I prefer to freeze mine because I don't like the pressure canned green beans, but they're still a bit too mushy for my taste. But yeah,
something that I have not seen lately, but it has been a thing, is where people are reusing the flat lids, or reusing jars that are not supposed to be. You get on these prepper sites. Well, this was a old mayonnaise jar with a mayonnaise screw-on lid, and I can just water bath it in that, and it'll seal. I hear it ping.
Yeah, let's not give people ideas. So, so you want to make sure that you are using the correct and up-to-date concepts, recipes, etc. You can probably find a very simple tomato sauce recipe just like your grandmother's. These tomato sauce recipes are not that complicated. They're typically the acidity is pretty much a lot of times the addition of lemon juice in order to compensate for the lessness in the tomatoes. Right. That typically is it, adding lemon juice or vinegar or something.
But just don't guess at it.
Yeah, no, don't guess at it. But you can, if your grandmother's tomato sauce recipe is like X amount of tomatoes, X amount of onions, X amount of garlic, oregano, basil, whatever, you're probably going to be able to find something pretty similar online, because they're all kind of, I don't want to say like they're all the same, but because there's like roasted tomatoes or blah, blah, blah. But like you can find something, it's pasta sauce. I don't want to, pasta sauce is pasta sauce when it comes down to it. So I guarantee you can find something that is safe and tastes just as good, and you're not going to risk, your health.
Well, we have people of all levels and lifestyles listening to the program, and I understand the prepper, and we take that word and it's blown out of context and now, but I understand people whom grow food, can the food, freeze the food, hunt the animal, freeze that. I get that, but what my question is on these. I guess they're labeled as doomsday preppers. They've got 40 years of food stored up in a culvert somewhere. If everything on the earth blows apart and there's nobody else alive and you're the only person here, what's your plan?
Right? Like
what's the end game here?
I don't know. Anyway, so with that being said,
if you've got an answer, gardentalkradio@gmail.com. It's on. Summer is in full swing, Holly, and the Japanese beetles are here, and they're not going away, but you can make them go away for good with Beetle Gone.
If you're looking to successfully control beetles without damaging the environment, look no further than Beetle Gone from Phylum Bioproducts. Derived from a naturally occurring soil bacteria, Beetle Gone is the only organic solution that successfully controls beetle invaders. Just mix the powder with water and spray on your plants. Once ingested, the targeted pests will stop feeding and die. And since it's an organic BT product, it's a great choice to use on your fruits and veggies in addition to your ornamental flowers and trees.
Not only does Beetle Gone work, but the best part about the product, it is safe to use around beneficial insects such as butterflies, ladybugs, and bees, and has no water toxicity. That's Beetle Gone from BeetleGone.com. That's Beetle Gone from BeetleGone.com.